YouTube. How we doing, family? It's your boy Yo, and there's another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Sunday, April 6th, and we have an 11-game NBA card. I'm going to walk you through every game, let you know which sides I like, and stick around because I have two highlighted selections for today. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite game in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, we cashed our highlighted play of the day. We took the Memphis Grizzlies laying 2.5 points in Detroit against the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons kept it competitive. It really came down to the last few possessions, but the Grizzlies did end up winning it 109 to 103. Let's keep that momentum rolling. I'm locked in, guys, and I'm looking to make this last week our biggest yet. Without further ado, let me get into today's games. In the morning game, the Bulls and Hornets is going to be going right as I upload this video, so check the pinned comment because I'll break down my thoughts on the game live. In our next matchup, we have the Los Angeles Lakers in Oklahoma City taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder are laying 9 points and the total is 231. After that last game against the Rockets, they had me worried taking OKC. Luka and LeBron are both playing and the Lakers have won 2 of the last 3 matchups. Without Anthony Davis though, the Lakers are definitely lacking on the glass and at the rim. In the backcourt, OKC has the advantage, so the Lakers' only X factor is LeBron James. I love Bron, I'm a huge fan, but I can't expect him to take the Lakers over the hump on a nightly basis at 40 years old. I'm not necessarily in a rush to lay this big of a number, but I do think OKC gets this one done. We're taking the Thunder laying the 9 as our next selection of the afternoon. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Toronto Raptors in Brooklyn taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Raptors are laying 3 points and the total is 215.5. Both teams are still severely banged up, but the Raptors have re-added some guys that concern me. Jakob Poeltl and Emmanuel Quickley are both ruled out, then Scotty Barnes is listed as questionable. The Nets also have some new concerning injuries like D'Angelo Russell and Nick Claxton, but I've watched some of their recent games fading them, and their reserves hoop. These guys, Zaire Williams, Keon Johnson, Tyrese Martin, they go crazy. I wasn't familiar with their game, but they low-key had me believing in the Nets. We're taking a shot with these boys. We're taking the Nets +3 as our first highlighted selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Sacramento Kings in Cleveland taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs are laying 10 points and the total is 236. The Kings currently sit in the 10th spot in the West, only 2 games ahead of the Suns in 11th. They're at full strength here, and something tells me they compete. I typically don't like laying extended numbers with the Kings. I learned my lesson, but getting double digits in my back pocket is another story. I told you guys in that last game, the Cavs aren't trying to dominate wins. They're kind of in cruise control. They beat the Spurs by 1 point in that one. There's just 2 different levels of motivation in this one, and I think the Kings want it more. We're taking the Kings plus the 10 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the San Antonio Spurs in Portland taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Blazers are laying 4.5 points and the total is 228. I mentioned the Suns are 2 games behind the Kings for the 10th spot in the West, but the Blazers are now only 3 games back in the 12th spot. It's probably more realistic that the Blazers grab the spot if the Kings lose a few games. They're currently on a 3-game win streak, and at home against the banged up Spurs, they should get this one done by margin. Everyone is listed as questionable on the Blazers, I will say. Tumani, Anthony, Danny, but I think a few of these guys play in what's basically a must-win. We're taking the Blazers laying the 4.5 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Utah Jazz in Atlanta taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are laying 12.5 points, and the total is 244.5. The Hawks come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, but no travel as they remain at home in Atlanta. Someone left a comment a couple days ago saying we can't trust the Hawks after they lost outright to the Blazers. There will be spots to take them, but this is not one of them. I mentioned before that the Hawks are a team that plays to their competition. They can beat the Celtics, or they can lose outright to the Wizards. I think this one falls in the latter category. The Jazz are sitting a majority of their starters, and they've been getting aired out recently, but the Hawks are not the type of team that I can lay this style number with. They're playing banged up themselves and on no rest. At worst, I see a 6-point Hawks win. We're taking the Jazz plus the 12.5 as our second highlighted selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Boston taking on the Boston Celtics. Celtics are laying 20.5 points, and the total is 227. The Wizards are still severely banged up, but the Celtics injury report is concerning as well. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both listed as questionable. We've seen the Wizards keeping games competitive recently, even beating the Kings outright as 13-point dogs. Carlton Carrington, Alex Sarr, Jordan Poole, these guys are playing decent basketball. The Celtics are coming off of a win and cover against the Suns, but coming off of an ATS win, they're 19, 36, and 1 against the spread in the following meeting, second worst in the league. If Tatum or Brown is ruled out, we're getting value on this line, but even if they play, I think the Celtics win this one by something like 18 points. We're taking the Wizards plus the 20.5 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Phoenix Suns in New York taking on the New York Knicks. Knicks are laying 9 points, and the total is 225.5. The Knicks come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Atlanta back home to New York City. They had 5 guys play over 30 minutes last night, so no rest will play a factor. I want to be done with the Suns, I really do, but we're giving them one last shot. Something tells me they compete here. The Knicks are still banged up, and on no rest, I think Devin Booker comes into Madison Square Garden and torches them. The Suns season isn't officially over, and if you're giving me 9 points in my back pocket in this spot, I'm taking it. We're taking the Suns plus the 9 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Indiana Pacers in Denver taking on the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets are laying 6.5 points, and the total is 240. In Denver, Joker playing? Give me the Nuggets. The Pacers have been heating up recently, but that was against subpar competition. Yeah, they blew out the Jazz and the Wizards, but that's not the Nuggets on primetime in the Mile High City. Jamal Murray is ruled out for the Nuggets, but Siakam is ruled out for the Pacers, and that's probably the bigger blow. This line is efficient. I can see the Nuggets winning it by something like 6 points, so make sure you guys are shopping your lines, but we're taking the Nuggets laying the 6.5 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Houston Rockets in Golden State taking on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors are laying 5 points, and the total is 225.5. This is a really good spot for the Warriors, but I was impressed by what I saw from the Rockets in that last game against OKC. Their offense was clicking, and their stars showed out. I always tell you guys, though, the Rockets run hot and cold. They can play perfect like that, then they can lay an egg the very next game. The Warriors currently sit in the 5th spot in the West, 1 game behind the Lakers in the 3rd spot. I think they're motivated tonight, and at full strength, they should beat the Rockets up, no problem. We're taking the Warriors laying the 5 as our next selection of the evening. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the Milwaukee Bucks in New Orleans taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Bucks are laying 8 points, and the total is 222.5. The Bucks come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Miami to New Orleans. I want to see an angle for the Pelicans considering this line is pretty short, but with how many guys are sitting, I think the Bucks get this one done. Giannis and Brook Lopez are playing, and I don't see how Kelly Olynyk stops them in the paint or has any impact on the glass. The game last night did go into overtime against the Heat, but Giannis is such a freak that I trust him on a back-to-back. We're taking the Bucks laying the 8 as our last and final selection of the evening. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're now 3-3 against the spread on highlighted plays in April, but let's go 2-0 today and make this last week an absolutely huge one. I appreciate your support so much. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'm going to catch y'all. Peace.